My heart is breaking. Thank you! We got one! I love public transit because it's great for the environment, it's good for communities, and for public health. And not because I suck at driving. But not everybody feels that way. And even if people do support public transit, even if they have access to it, they still might not choose to use it. And I want to figure out why. So I spent the last few weeks looking at maps, talking to people, and exploring one of Canada's most cursed public transit projects to figure it out.
This place is so empty, it's like something from a zombie film.
It's a long story, let me explain. Thank you to our supporters on Patreon for supporting the channel, and to No Brainers for sponsoring this portion of the video. Just like us, the team at No Brainers are a group of non-experts asking questions big and small and sharing the fun along the way. Produced in partnership with TVO, they explore things like beauty brainwashing to endless scrolling.
Are we really in control of how makeup makes us feel?
What happens when you overstimulate your brain with a full day of mindless scrolling and then hit the brakes by jumping into a sensory deprivation tank?
All of it is available right now for free on YouTube. If you like us, then you'll like them. Their channel is linked in the description. Check them out. Now back to the video. I have always been a fan of public transit. For all of the frustrations and faults, I think that it's a good thing. Which is why it's so strange to me that Canada and America seem so different from our global peers. Like, you look at the girl group of 7 and you can't help but notice that we are just so far behind in terms of infrastructure, but also user interest. If we compare the amount of passenger cars per capita, Canadians and Americans just seem to prefer driving. And I want to know why. So to start, I think I need to find the facts in my feelings and figure out if public transit is actually a good thing. Is it something nice to have, or do we even need it? Yes, we do. So I tried to make a public transit pros and cons list for society, and it was really hard because there are like no cons. You know that TikTok audio?
Grows the economy. Benefits everybody. Hurts nobody.
Yeah, it's that. That is public transit. It is safer and less fatal for riders and other street users than cars. It encourages regular exercise. It is way better for the environment. It is also a way more efficient use of space because cars suck at maximizing the amount of people getting from point A to point B, and storing them is a nightmare. It is also essential for people who do not have access to a car and need to get places. But if you don't care about any of that and you just care about money, public transit is a good investment. So if public transit is this great for society, why doesn't Canada and America have more of it? Have you heard about the highway lobby?
Kachow!
Now, we weren't always bad at public transit. In the early 1900s, vast rail networks connected the continent, and streetcar systems weaved through cities that you wouldn't traditionally consider hubs, like LA. So what happened? Well, it starts with the concept of a street, which has surprisingly many uses. A path, a playground, a potential profit. That's because when a street belongs to everyone, everyone is free to imagine how they can use it. It asks a question: what am I for? Believe it or not, in the early 1900s, we didn't have a clear answer, but the rising popularity of cars was making it pretty obvious that we needed to find one. Cars brought congestion, which made a lot of public transit impractical. They also brought danger because they kept hitting people. Cars also brought together enough collective interest and influence to finally answer the question: streets are for cars. Now, the highway lobby did do a lot of things to literally pave the way for an auto-centric future. They purchased streetcar networks that were failing because of car traffic, and they tore up the tracks. They established toll-free highways funded largely by federal taxes. And they benefited from racism and classism by promising an urban renewal by replacing marginalized communities with highways. But I think the most significant thing that the highway lobby might have pulled off was that they got us to stop imagining. What are streets for? Through flashy exhibits and promises of modernity and freedom, we allowed cars to take over the street, and in doing so, changed the way we approach everything. Solving congestion went from moving people to moving cars. Reducing traffic accidents went from saving lives to getting pedestrians out of the way. Cities went from dense hubs of community and trade to parking lots, and people left to spend too much of their life in rush hour traffic. But to say that cars have just won forever would be a disservice to the many public transit projects happening in Canada and North America. Like Toronto, the city that I'm from, has some of the most public transit projects in North America. Except the only time that I hear about them is when things go wrong. And after learning what we've learned, I can't help but wonder, is this the highway lobby? Are they doing something behind the scenes? So I read a few articles, talked to some people, and it turns out probably not sabotage. But mostly, It's just a miracle that any public transit works.
I'm Reece. I'm, I guess, primarily a YouTuber at RMTRANSIT, and it's the same on Twitter, Instagram, all the socials, but I also do transportation consulting. So in general, there are a variety of steps to planning a new big infrastructure transit project like this. You start with a good reason to build such a project, and then you move on to sort of planning. And with planning, you're looking at all kinds of different things. You know, you might have kind of a map of your city. Then you start trying to say like, oh, how can we connect these things up and hit the necessary destinations? There's all kinds of different geographical dependencies as well. There might be a sewer line here, and you might have to figure out a way to go under it. Once you go through the planning process, you're probably going to start going into engineering. You're going to look at the actual physical built environment. So maybe there's a mall and you gotta send the train under the mall. Now you gotta look at the foundations of the mall to make sure that you can actually dig a tunnel there and that you're not gonna cause the mall to collapse. Once you have that, you're gonna cost it out. How many years is it probably gonna take to build the thing? What materials do we need? What equipment do we need to buy so that we can now go and build this thing? And once we have the costing, then we can go to government, everyone's favorite, and ask, please give me money.
If a project gets funded, then it moves to procurement, where different companies bid for contracts to actually dig the holes and lay down lines. Once you figure out who's building what, you actually have to build it, which means
you close down streets, you reroute buses, there's tons of different planning and organization that has to happen in that.
And then once everything is built, you need to test it. And it's not just seeing if a vehicle can move, it's about the systems in and around it. And then it finally opens and we're done, right? Wrong.
You've got vehicles, but you also have things like the tracks and the overhead wires and the tunnels themselves that need to be checked up on a regular basis. There are literally millions of components and thousands of sort of electronic devices that all need to be maintained.
And there's usually very little time to do this since these things start early and run late. Also, if something goes wrong, like a flood or an electrical fire, everything else gets delayed.
There's sort of this avalanche of dependencies where you have, oh, we were gonna go fix the rails, but now we gotta go fix the train, so the rails gotta get fixed in 2 weeks, but that means we've gotta fix something else later.
But so far, this has been really rail focused. What about buses and other forms of sustainable transit? They're cheaper and they're less disruptive to build and repair.
The issue here is that, as with everything in transportation, you get into trade-offs. When you have buses and rail, one of them is a bit more resilient and easy to manage, but it's way more expensive to run buses if you wanna move thousands and thousands of people. Because if you wanna move 1,000 people, you need like 12 buses, but you need one train. And that's 12 drivers versus one driver.
So sometimes it makes more sense to commission a bus, other times a multi-use trail, other times trains. I like trains. It all really depends on what a community needs. Now, this means that things go wrong when the people involved in these projects forget about the community or actively want to displace them. But this conversation also made me realize that sometimes things go wrong because this is just really hard. Deadlines are missed even when people don't want to miss deadlines. Sometimes maintenance is at an inconvenient time because there was a fire. There wasn't supposed to be a fire, but there was one and we had to put it out. But my conversation with Reece at least gave me a little bit more sympathy for how hard all of this is. If you like nuanced but optimistic news around public transit, you should really check out his channel. But either way, at least we know that as much work as it is to make public transit, when we do it, people are gonna use it. Right? Right? Welcome to the 401 in Toronto, Canada. It is the busiest highway in North America, and apparently, it does give us an odd sense of pride. Does it, Kyle? Does it, Kyle? There's so many cars! It's a lot of cars. And I just find this kind of surprising because according to census data, there are a lot of people driving in and out of Toronto who don't need to. The rail service I'm riding right now connects these suburbs to the downtown core. If we compare the average commuter travel times, public transit should be the obvious choice every time. Yet 91% of people commuting to Toronto still choose to drive rather than take public transit. This is a larger disparity than usual due to the pandemic's many impacts, but in 2016, it still wasn't even close. So even when public transit is available, there's no guarantee that people will use it. Why? To answer that question, I needed to figure out what factors influence people to choose how they travel. So I picked up some beginner-friendly books on public transit design, fell into the world of urban planning content, and spent a little too long playing Mini Metro. Yeah, I count this as research. No, I'm not very good at it. When it comes to transit modes, we generally have three options: public, private, and active. Each of these have pros and cons, not societal ones like I talked about for public transit at the start of this video, but more like potential points of friction that might steer someone from one option to another. Because it turns out individuals aren't always motivated by societal benefits. Take that, utilitarianism! Now I could just list these factors, but I could also force my friends to experience them. Do either of you know how to drive?
Yes, I do have a license.
I have 100% in the theory test, if that helps.
I don't need theory, I need practice because I need you guys to do a travel challenge with me. Okay, so we want to compare different modes of transit. If we assume that the average person should be able to comfortably travel between shelter, healthcare, education, and work in a reasonable amount of time, then we can travel between those places and compare the experience and timing with Melissa driving, Taha taking public transit, and me walking.
Well, I feel like I have a disadvantage in Toronto and you guys have home field advantage. So I don't really feel like that's a fair fight.
Okay, so what's some neutral territory?
I don't know. Ottawa? Yes, it's still in Canada, and yes, Melissa and I have been there before, but it is so unmemorable that it isn't the problem. So I mapped 4 locations: the hotel we're staying at, a major hospital, the local university, and Parliament Hill, because Answer in Progress is now a political party running on a platform of getting views. I don't think that this should be a competition though, right? It's like a learning experience.
I agree, it should be a competition.
No, that's
what you said and I agree with it.
This does mean that I'm gonna need to walk like 3 hours.
That seems like a personal problem.
I love our supportive work environment.
For the record, this is your idea. You called us.
I'm
and now
hanging
you're
up.
complaining.
Go away!
Who goes to Ottawa?
What do you think of this train?
I like this train, it's nice. I like trains.
This is my baby's first vlog in public.
Well, I have to walk, so I'm leaving now. Time starts 2:18. Goodbye, everybody.
She's leaving. I've got to drive, so I got to go get a car.
I am taking public transit and I don't know anything about the public transit system in Ottawa. So I am going to figure that out.
Here we go. I could get there 15 minutes driving or 1 hour and 11 minutes walking. I'm calling my shot and assuming I'm walking in the right direction.
That's my ride. The farthest thing away is currently the hospital. Maybe 20 minutes. That doesn't seem too bad.
Hello, welcome to my public transit tier list. I couldn't figure out OBS, so we're doing this instead. We're gonna be ranking our modes of transit according to 5 categories that I'm going to dramatically reveal with time. Each one of these represent a potential point of friction that can influence whether or not somebody chooses to walk, drive, or take public transit. So let's start with understanding. It's important to know that there isn't anything inherently more straightforward about walking, driving, or taking public transit in a new place. I'm definitely walking in the wrong direction. Cool, love that for me.
I'm being discriminated against for being British. My 4G is not working and the Wi-Fi at the hotel is being mean.
Turn right on this later street, Ottawa 40.
A right? No bueno. Is that a road closure? You can't get a road closure already. Oh wait, no, am I supposed to go straight? No, it says buses except I can't go straight.
But even though our modes of transit can be equally complicated, the consequences of not understanding can vary. Like with walking, it's a little bit embarrassing, but you could get back on track pretty easily. Hi there. This is south, right? Amazing, thank you so much. It also isn't that bad for driving because of GPS. Things just get a little tricky when other drivers are involved.
Can I turn right on red? I'm not sure if I can do that in Ottawa. Oh, there's cars behind me that are gonna get mad.
But with public transit, there is just so much that you need to understand, like if there's a way to get to where you need to go.
40 minutes to get to the hospital.
What do you need to take to get there?
I can't really tell whether or not like a route is a bus or the tube. It just sort of says like this line or this number. So that's confusing.
Where is the nearest stop?
The Confederation line is what I'm looking for, but I don't actually know where I can find it. I think it's just in here. I'm not sure though.
This place is so empty, it's like something from a zombie film.
How do you pay?
By a single day pass. For 1 day. Do this from credit. Yes, I would like a receipt. Day pass, and then receipts, cool. Trying to take the Confederation line to Blair, 3 stops.
And are you actually getting on the right thing?
I am on the wrong side of the platform.
Mess any of that up and you are in for a bad time. And that bad time is really common.
Every New Yorker has not paid attention, missed their stop, gone over the bridge, and then had to go all the way back around. And we've been testing and designing new maps for the entire New York City metropolitan area and just trying to make it easier for everyone to get around the city.
Now, we know that making and maintaining a transit system is really difficult, but it turns out that communicating that system so that the public understands is also really tricky.
While the subway diagram is meant to really guide you while you're underground, when you get off at a station, what landmarks are you near? What direction am I facing? It becomes really evident when there's not been sufficient thought gone into these signs, because a lot of it is physical signage.
It's so empty that I feel like I'm like trespassing. I might be. I don't know enough about this area.
A lot of times it does end up being like Unicode little emojis.
Trains, that's what I want.
Because there's so many people from around the world that may not know your language.
But hey, with enough time and experience, you can understand any mode of transit pretty well. However, what those experiences feel like will vary pretty dramatically. For example, if you're living in a society that was designed for motor vehicles, walking isn't always a good time.
Walking through a tunnel, it's a little scary. There's no lighting. I was just trying to go through a crosswalk and somebody just started driving. I don't like this. Truly, the only space between me and cars is like 4 feet. I'm really starting to realize that just because there's a place I can walk doesn't mean that it's walkable. I'm so tired. There's the hospital. The current time is 4:01 p.m. I made it.
I wish I could fit a lower tier in frame. Anyway, as you can imagine, cars in public transit are a lot more comfortable.
I wonder how the other two are doing. I hope they're okay. They're staying warm and dry. I sure am, because I am in a car.
I've just reached University of Ottawa, which is fantastic. I didn't even realize it was on the route.
Yeah, parking. I made it. I should take a selfie.
I'm walking down a street called Industrial Avenue. Does not seem good. Does not seem promising.
Like, I get that it can be uncomfortable sitting or standing around strangers, but at least you can zone out and do your own thing. And I can't really think of anything that is straight up uncomfortable about driving other than maybe finding a parking spot.
I must have I did a bad parking job. Is that parking? That's not parking. I've made it to the University of Ottawa.
But that is nothing but small beans compared to walking in a place designed for cars. There's nothing to see but highways or suburbs. Everything is so far apart. And I kept feeling with every sense I had of cars and buses just whooshing by so much faster.
My walking route has literally taken me to a public transit station. There are buses, there's an LRT, but now I need to walk. I hate committing to a bit. Y'all are never gonna catch me committing to a bit ever again.
But hey, walking does have one major benefit. Freedom. But really, it might be tiring or inconvenient, but you can walk to a lot of places while enjoying more flexibility to explore than cars or public transit.
Location 3, down.
When you're in a car, you make your destination, and to make another pit stop, you really have to figure out where you're gonna park your car.
If I saw a cafe or something that I liked on my route, I wouldn't really want to get off the bus, because if I get off the bus, it's now like another 15 to 20 minutes until the next bus.
Now, this might not be a fair ranking for public transit, because in many cases, it can enable more mobility and freedom. However, that relies on a system being well-designed and reliable, something Ottawa Public Transit is not.
I have been waiting for about 10 minutes, and it said that the bus was going to be 5 minutes away for the last 10 minutes. The only thing I can conclude is that the bus is lying.
Now, we didn't know Ottawa's public transit reputation before we decided to go there, but it turns out it's cursed. Ottawa once had an incredible bus rapid transit system with incredible lanes and roads. But the city realized that they could reduce downtown congestion, lower operating costs, and service more people by replacing the buses with trains. So they did it. Badly. There's a lot of nuance to this story, but I just want to share the literal train wreck of a timeline. Late 2012. A transit line is approved to replace popular downtown bus routes. 2013. Construction begins. 2014. A sinkhole opens, but don't worry, doesn't cause too many issues. 2016. Another sinkhole opens? This one does cause a lot of issues. 2018. The project is supposed to be finished by now.
It isn't. They still reduce bus service though. 2019.
The line is almost done. It's just having trouble passing testing standards.
But that's not a problem if you just change the testing standards.
They opened the transit line and cut the bus routes it was designed to replace.
But uh-oh, the trains keep failing. Maybe testing is important?
No, 2020.
Some of the trains are pulled out of service because their wheels aren't round. They should have watched our video to learn how to make a wheel. Oh, also parts of the train were falling on the tracks, which was stopping other trains.
That's synergy, baby.
2021. Derailment. Still 2021. Another derailment. Also still 2021. Fare increase? The government finally asked, what happened here? This year, the train is stopped for 6 days because of ice. And then again, a few months later for another 2 days. Bro, how am I making a video about public transit good and I accidentally put us in a city where public transit bad? Luckily, things are improving. Slowly.
Also, when I was on the tube or subway or whatever it is, it's quite slow.
Yeah, I meant that literally because they need to run the trains more slowly to avoid wear and tear. But not all hope is lost. A lot of the systemic issues have been identified, and as the line extends, it'll get more useful. However, a lot of the damage has kind of been done.
I think what's been really difficult for me is how much trust has been eroded and what kind of repair are we going to be able to create? What would it take to bring riders back? So is it a matter of looking at our fare structure? And then other people were saying, well, not really, because if I can't get from point A to point B reliably, I would never pay even nothing for it.
So walking and driving are almost always going to get able-bodied people from point A to point B. That is not a guarantee with public transit. Even if there is a route that can theoretically get you there, if you can't trust it to do that, then you won't use it. You can support public transit in theory, but if you can't use it in practice, why would you? But wait, there's more.
I need to figure out where Parliament Hill is. I don't know if it's a real hill or just like a metaphorical hill.
I see Parliament, there are cars everywhere. I think that all of these roads around Parliament are closing.
I'm gonna figure out how to get to the last stop while I'm on the move.
There's like a proper news reporter, the old school vlogger.
I am right here. There's a sign over there that says I can't park anywhere. All the roads are closed. This is as close as I'm going to get.
Try to get over there. It's being obscured by clouds at the moment. We're so close.
Let's assume that all of these modes of transit can get you to where you need to go. How long does that take?
Good game, good game. Good game, good game, good game, good game, good game. We made it all at the same time.
The exact same time.
I had to walk by like a 4-lane highway for an hour. Walking. Terrible. Driving. I put it in the middle tier because sometimes it can be fast, but other times the President of the United States might be in town and all of the streets shut down.
Hurts nobody.
But
goodbye, vehicle. Okay, there she is. I think I might see somebody. Who is that?
We made it.
I think you beat me.
A little bit.
For all of the trust issues, when public transit works, it works.
I've been here for so long. We should all say what time we arrived. 1, 2, 3,
5,
4:27.
I have now combined all of our tier lists into one super tier list based off our 5 points of friction. I've added a new axis to the tier list system. Looking at all of this now, it's becoming really obvious to me that this was really stupid.
But it does make it really obvious why people don't take public transit and why they take cars instead.
Because it can be tricky to understand public transit. But even if you understand it, can you trust it to take you to all the places you want to go? In Canada and North America, the answer to that question is pretty often no.
A lot of places are trying, but it's still gonna take a while to get there.
And sure, when public transit works, it is incredible, but cars are gloriously mediocre.
They get you to where you need to go most of the time, it's not too bad.
So for a lot of people, cars are the natural choice 90% of the time. But what about the other 10%? After making this video, I now know that it isn't reasonable to just expect everyone to take public transit all of the time. It isn't always practical, and it also requires a lot of trust and humility. Like, it is humbling, chasing after a bus and seeing it drive off, or worse, getting stranded because the next one is late or canceled. But I still think it's worth the risk, because small increases in public transit use can have big social benefits. It might even make public transit itself better because it shows that there's demand. Demand for better urban design, demand for better climate, demand for streets to belong to people, not just cars. If you take anything away from this video, I hope it's the knowledge that public transit, even at its most cursed, most loathed, it can still beat the alternatives from time to time. Which reminds me, I owe Taha a prize.
Oh. This is terrible.